Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres. And if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Nicole Casanova, who is CEO and Connection Catalyst at Casanova Ventures. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate your willingness to be here when it's this time for me and a different time for you. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, your backdrop. I was saying to myself, I'm like, what did I do wrong with my life? I'm stuck in the studio. You're on a balcony recording. Beautiful, beautiful view. Where are you right now?
I'm in Koh Phangan, Thailand. I'm very thankful and blessed to be here. Very thankful that the government has let me reside here for the little bit that I've been here. I'm very thankful.
Absolutely amazing. And so we got a lot to talk about today. So as connection catalysts, I mean, a big theme of our show today, we'll be talking about connections, the power of it, some of the things that you've done to really create a business, and even more so than a business. In my mind, you've really created an ecosystem around providing value and providing trust. And really, you serve as a glue for many, many networks. And we'll get into that when we talk about both Casanova Ventures and also when we talk about the conspiracy. So we'll talk about these. But just to get us kicked off, like we start all our shows with our signature questions. So Nicole, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. So that's our mission here. Nicole, what mission matters to you?
Oh, I'm so thankful that you asked me this question. So my purpose, my mission is to shift the game. And I am doing that by curating all of the right people, technologies, innovations, resources, so that we can power the people, so that we can give everybody access to the things that make them more sovereign. It could be a list of things. Yeah.
Amazing. And love bringing these mission-based entrepreneurs on the show. I get it, and I'm excited to bring you to my audience and just tell them more about what you do and really how you do it, because I think it's very unique. Maybe just to start off with, just to kind of set the stage. Let's start talking about the idea of connection or connectors, because I don't feel like everybody watching, like, unless they've had a great connector in their life, then they don't really understand the power. So I'll give you my example of one of the connectors in my life. When I was in college, his name's Claudio, one of my frat brothers. And when I think about it, I went back, him and my cousin, I went to college with both of these two. When I trace back my entire college experience, probably 80% of the people I met could be traced back to these two individuals, like the people I talk to today. Like, there's something about having these special people that are able to connect in your life. Like, if you go back many, many years and think about it, like these are the ones, they just bring these quality, amazing people into your life. So what is your idea of like a connector?
I like that example that you gave. It is because, and there's different, I think, variations of connectors. There are people that are just like, they're great at it, they love it, it's innate. If you force them not to do it, they couldn't help themselves, they'd have to bring people together. And there are people that are like conveners of worlds, they're the bridge makers, they're the champions. I call them meta connectors or super connectors, or like I sometimes say I'm a connectrix. And it's my joy to pull together people from different networks, and it can be in so many different ways, but it's really interesting to see the trajectory of not just my life, but what happens in other people's lives, like you said, because of some of the relationships that are put in place. And when I hear from people, I've had people tell me that someone said that I thought they were best friends forever, and they're like, no, you introduced us. I didn't even know that. And it was like 20 years, like that kind of stuff makes me incredibly happy. And I mean, I can go into, examples of like, even in the last week, just crazy serendipity things that happen. I ask people to tell me what they're passionate about, and then what's on their wish list. And I just have this ability to pull them into my vortex and curate the right resources for the people that need them. So, last week I was on a call, and back-to-back calls. One was a Marine, and he's in Dublin, and he is kind of like the guy when it comes to AI and robotics,
Yeah.
and he's working on his second fund. And I was like, I have a feeling the next conversation I have is going to be the perfect person for you. They were back-to-back calls. The next guy was working with an organization that's connected to the DoD, and they have the ability to secure funding in as little as 60 days and have access to like billions, like they have mega resources at their fingertips. So not only is it military, but it was also specifically AI and robotics. And these were like back-to-back calls. So of course I had to hook them up. But that's like an example of just the magic that I saw.
In my example in college, so that like those individuals, they were, that was more on the social side of things. So now what I find so interesting is that like with what you're doing now, I mean, when you think about the creator economy, when you think about all these different, just how fluid people are moving, not just between countries and other things, but just in between economies, and how technology has kind of leveled the playing field to a certain amount. I mean, like, how do you keep doing it? Like, what's that special, that secret? Like, how do you keep it going?
We'll get to that part later. Talk about the conspiracy and how I'm trying to, let me reframe that word. I will find a way to replicate myself times 10, because it is my joy to make the connections, and it makes me so frustrated to become the gatekeeper, because I can only make so many introductions a day. So there's things I'm looking at putting in place to make it easier to leverage the access and trust that people like me have. Literally, I think for connectors, it is such an innate thing. Like I pattern match. When I talk to somebody, I listen for what is it that they need, and then while I'm speaking, I'm writing down. There's 10. You need to know about this new technology that's came out. You need to know, like, these people have an organization that's got all the SDG UN goals, and you should be tied in with them. And I pattern match, and I cannot help myself. Any conversation I'm in, that just happens. So that part is not the hard part. That there's like sustenance and joy that comes from hearing what people are up to and then putting them together. I love that part. The only thing that's like a frustration is that I would like to do it times 10. I want to do it times, like X 100. And, we talk about the world becoming fluid and the creator economy, social commerce, how things are shifting. I'm very interested in every way that we can, as I said, power the people. And I believe that the connectors are the ones that create economies. They create innovation. They're the ones that, when we get into any organization, company, city, you name it, those are the people, the community organizers that are creating the real value. And there's some places where they have been, their wealth, their worth is understood. So if you're in LA and you're a talent agent, you're representing an artist, an athlete, it's totally understood. But there are some areas where it's not necessarily received the same way. And I come out of startups and venture capital, and it's a different thing in that world. And it's like, when somebody has the ability to leverage a 20-year relationship and get you in the door that would have taken like 100 salespeople and 4 years to do, like, there's value in that. So I'm really interested in, as we move forward and we start having, blockchain and these smart wallets and ways to reward people for what they do, it is my goal to make it so that the connectors are the ones that are rewarded for the value that they bring, because there's so much. They are the wealth in the network. The wealth is in the network, but it's like, who is it that actually knows who the right players are in the network? It's the nodes. So it's finding those people and giving them a way to thrive. That's part of my
very well said. And no, it's very well said, because I want to take a step back on one of the things you mentioned. So if you have a connector, which we'll continue to use that term, but some people call them by other terms. Let's just say, you could say a business consultant, you could say a business. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but I like yours because your term is very accurate for what you do. But just for the audience that maybe aren't as familiar with the connector thing, think about it as a business consultant.
And also, I would see that in some, and also the people I'm talking about, we're actually more like super connectors.
For sure.
Because who we know and then what we're engaged in, it's a different level. And it's like literally that's almost it is our job to bring together worlds.
Absolutely. And the point
So,
is that if you can work with a super connector such as yourself, and you can get into, let's just say, a door that you wouldn't have been able to get into maybe even with 100 salespeople, like what's the value on that? And if that connection is what ultimately got you your funding or whatever it took to make your project or product or whatever the goal is, whatever was on your wish list, that Nicole made happen, like there's a value in that. So that's and also that time value. So the opportunity cost of not doing it with a super connector in terms of intros and things like that, versus trying to like take it and start from scratch on a 20-year relationship isn't happening, especially as fast as we move now.
I think for people to also think about, connection is everything. It is the basis for all things. And I can go into a whole thing about connection builds innovation and all these pieces. But when we think about connection, especially in the business world, yes, it's pulling together the relationships. But if you look at like tangible outcomes, like you said, it might be helping secure funding, so access to capital. It could be visibility and awareness, major media opportunities. It might be leveraging a next piece of technology. It could be putting your board together, the next talent. Like there's so many components to what connection entails and like the real tangible outcomes for that. So it's like revenue driven, it's traction, it's scale, like, they're all things that could be measured.
So so now I think we've set a good stage in terms of what a super connector looks like, because people that are watching this right now, they're like, okay, I get it. But there's also some people watching this right now that happen to be super connectors, and they're kind of, in my opinion, they're going to be the minority of people watching this. But there's a couple people that their ears just like, oh,
oh
she's
my God,
talking
that's what I do.
like I see one of my own. When you see one your own,
Right.
you see one your own, right? Like you recognize it. What kind of, I don't know if I would use the word advice, but what kind of tips would you give those other super connectors that are watching, like speaking directly to them on your journey so far?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's
I know that's a
interesting.
big one and that's a total different angle, but I think it's important.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's actually something I know I don't think I mentioned this to you, but I'm interested in creating a series of workshops for different levels of people. There's the people that are just, I'm a connector, it's innate within me, I want to do something with this. How do I make this into a career or a living, or what does that look like?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at putting together a workshop with some of the content behind how it is that I've gone and built a network. How do you get in the door anywhere? Like, what is true access? How can you be privy to information that other people just cannot get? There are tips and there's ways of curating relationships that are just like impossible, that nobody, like, what? How is it that you know this person? And like, not only do you know them, but you've built like a lifelong friendship. What does that look like? So there's versions of that I'm interested in. And then there's also like, well, what is it for the next level of more of the super connectors, and what are they doing to monetize what they do? Like how are they able to transition from conversations into contracts? How do they, there's other elements for how do you make this work when in some worlds, especially coming out of like venture and stuff, where investors, there has been reluctance for them to pay. Like they just don't like the idea of, it's outsourced business development. It's like, I don't know, you can think of it in different ways, but it's like, there's an education component that needs to happen. And I feel like, the answer for the people, like whoever it is that just heard this, that like clicked and they're like, oh my gosh,
there's a few.
What I do, I would say, when people, if you ever get to the point where you want to be doing this as your thing, and if you ever get a question about, well, I want guaranteed results, or I want, there's, some people talk about the person that goes and moves the huge ship and it only takes them like 10 minutes, but they have like 20 years of education and history. There is an element for what the relationships took, the access that we have. And it's like, I'm not going to sit and guarantee results. It's like, I'm going to either win for you or I'm not. You're either going to be like so excited and just jazzed and you're going to want me in your life forever, or maybe today's not the day that we partner. And I even tell this to, I worked with a lot of women raising money. I was involved in something called the Veneta Project and they're still totally, they're in 7 cities. God, years ago, we had raised $200 million for these early stage women-led tech companies. I don't know what they are now, but we would tell the women as they were raising money, and I would say anybody going into any partnership, negotiation, you name it. I never talk about people as clients. Yeah. I always call everyone I speak about is a partner. And I always say, like, let's lean back and acknowledge what it is that we enjoy in the other person and how do we want to show up with them and what feels good. Because at the end of the day, like, we're marrying them. And that's the case for if it's an investor, if it's a strategic partner. And so I would say, maybe that's another tidbit for the person that's the super connector that's like, I want to do this. Lean back a little bit and recognize like the value you bring is not, there's going to be a time when our value will be understood. And as AI comes and takes over other people's jobs, and we are going to be more automated in so many different ways. If you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, there's a lot of things that are just not going to be valued the same way. I believe that the connectors, the super connectors, we're like fine wine, right? Because like, as I age, my value grows. The amount of people I've met, even in like the last week, like if I told you about like the blockchain DeFi, even on this island, the crazy people that I have access to on a regular basis. And when you extrapolate that over time, when I'm 20 years from now, I will be worth even more. And AI cannot usurp the power of a relationship that I have with someone. It's like, it's recession proof. So I would say
it's amazing. And no, it's great and it's amazing. And I like the care that you put into your work. And speaking of your work, so I do want to spend some time on the businesses. So let's just start with Casanova Ventures. So give us a little bit of an overview there, and then we'll move on into the conspiracy, because that's going to be fun too.
Okay, Casanova Ventures. So Casanova Ventures is I guess you could call it maybe a consulting firm that I've had for over a decade now. And we work with, it's changed over time. So there was a time when I was very focused on women-led tech companies. That was a big thing. I've been a mentor and advisor for a lot of accelerators, people that are growing, building out the network. So it might be like the investor network of a startup studio. I worked with a lot of investors as a finder. So for like one of the largest consumer CPG private equity companies, or some venture funds, some of them would have us vet their companies for them. So the emerging tech companies would tell us, this is who's on their wish list. And then we would get them in the room, and we have access, like, because we're a third party. Sometimes I'd have like 60-80% conversion rates to like the CEOs of name a major company, but it was like, they want to see startup innovation. They just don't want to deal with 40 people that call them a day. And so I would often be in the room asking the hard questions. I'd be like right there, kind of setting the company up and getting under the cover, we would get to the things that you probably would never really get to. And then I would be privy to information in the background. So that's a lot of what we would do, is we would run these campaigns for emerging tech companies, and we would get them access. That was the focus before. My interest now is shifting more so towards being a consigliere. And if you are familiar with that word, it is the Godfather in the mafia has his trusted counsel. And so I'm more interested now, instead of just working with the emerging tech companies, I'm interested in the high net worth individual. Doesn't have to be a billionaire, and it doesn't have to be a philanthropist. It might be an impact investor. It could be a serial entrepreneur with exits, somebody with resources. It might be a content, a creator that just like did really, really well, and now they want to leave their legacy. And so my interest is in two parts. When I say consigliere, and we go into like a whole background I created a game called Shift that shows us why we do what we do. I was in personal development for a very long time. So everything I do with these companies, there's a mindset component to it as well. So I get them to focus on expansion. There has to be a self-awareness piece. And the people I work with now, I want them to have a desire to be more generous, loving, kind each day than they were the day before. And so if they have a willingness to be seen and
Mm-hmm.
kind of called out on their shit in a way that most people at that level, they're only getting yeses, that's
Yeah.
very interesting to me. And for those people, I want to know everything about what's on their list of endeavors now, 10 years from now, 20, so that I can start curating all of the right people and resources around them. So that's more of my interest now, is supporting those people.
That's amazing. I'm just curious, and I just have to ask this question because I've talked to you a couple times, and I'm like, how many conversations do you think that you have in a week? I'm just curious because I feel like you're the only person that has more than me, possibly.
No, right? And you're I know.
Just guess. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
And
I
the
know I'm
funny
putting
thing
you on the
is,
spot.
like,
Just
here
guess.
I'm on an island, and I'm like, my whole thing was like, okay, you gotta like pull it back a little, like enjoy where you are, because like where I am, my meetings are like crack of dawn, early morning, or like late at night. So it'd be like 12:30 at night, and I can do back to back. I'm much better than I was in the States. There were days when I would say I was in like 8 or 10 meetings at least a day. I was like sometimes like back to back, which is probably not that healthy. And then I would go to an event that I was curating, or like, I'm an extrovert. I thrive on people. I love it. It fills me up. So I think there's some people where this is just like it's a drain. I'm really good at either being just present with myself and I don't talk to anyone. And I'm much more about that these days, of just like, okay, it's me time. So I can hear myself and I can source and I can be present for people. And then whenever I'm not, I mean, I just hosted a party here like 2 weeks ago, and everyone was like, is it your birthday? I'm like, no, it's not my birthday, but I've met wonderful people here. They don't know each other. These are different, you've got like the crypto DeFi people, and you've got like, there's just all these communities that didn't know each other. So I hosted a dinner.
The connector that you are, of course you brought them all together.
Because it's fun. Because that's my joy, is to like witness them meeting each other and creating the next thing together. It's like, that's what gets me.
Absolutely amazing. 100%. I 100% get it. And it's great that you are able to do that, because it's a definite skill. It's not easy to do what you do. So Casanova Ventures, so I know you're still working with, high net worth individuals, or just individuals that have resources and that are really looking at that, at having a trusted advisor such as yourself, and thinking about like intentional steps of what their next steps of their lives look like. Like you said, it could be philanthropy, it could be a lot of different things, right?
Already know. Like some people have like, they're like, oh, I'm totally focused on anything regenerative agriculture, regenerative money, like what, like there's people that absolutely know this is my focus, my area. And I would say, like, some people ask me, because my background is media and advertising, and it's like a lot of the things I do are at the intersection of the influencer, sports, entertainment space, and all the infrastructure in the back end. Creating content, there's streaming, there's all that. But the reality is, it doesn't matter. I've had, I don't know, 10 or at least 10 companies that were just in luxury travel. I have companies in aging, companies in like digital health. I'm super connected in that. So like, sometimes I say that's not my world, but it almost doesn't matter. I'm like agnostic when it comes to what that is. And for now, like in terms of who the people are that I'm supporting, there's some kind of element of give back, or there's some impact. They're wanting to leave their legacy through technology. So that is my thing. Like, yes, I do things like, something it might be a product. It might be like there's a bottle that like they're giving free water to all these women around the world. Like there's things like that are very interesting. I generally default to tech. I love technology. I do believe that technology will like, it's not that I need to have a chip in my head yet. I'm not really like ready for that.
I want it. I want the chip. Sign me up.
Because I don't want to do the typing anymore. I want everything to just be like free flow, get my content out, I know.
I want the chip in my head. I don't want to forget things anymore. I want it all to be like Rolodexed in my eye. I want to be able to reply to email when I'm sleeping. I'm fine. I saw the demo, Elon. Just give me a chip, put it in my head, whatever.
I know.
It's fine. I'll be the guinea pig. I'm okay. You can put that little cord sticking out of my head.
I've got their like LinkedIn profile, like as I'm walking up to them, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is how? Oh, cool!
Yeah, I want it. I'm all right with it. I'm like, whatever. I take that over some of the other things they're doing out there. I'm fine. At least the chip, I'm gonna see some benefit. I'm okay.
I know it's funny. It's funny, like what I'm open to, and that is one of the things. Yeah.
Same. So now from Casanova Ventures to, and of course you still have that company, which you've had for a long time, but now you have another project, one of many, but this is a big one. And when you told me about this, so the conspiracy, so where do you want to start with the conspiracy? Because this is a big deal.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm going like, shh, I'm making a joke because it's like, oh, the name conspiracy, which I had a lot of pushback on this idea for like 5 years, at least the name. People were like, you can't use the word conspiracy, you can't. And again, I'm into like, all right, how do we educate people on like what's the word conspiracy, the Latin root term from the 1400s before we corrupted it, it means to breathe together. So I'm interested in the sharing economy for relationships. I'm interested in how do we breathe life into the next innovations by putting the right people together. And so there's different versions of what that looks like. The conspiracy is, it's a series of things. The conspiracy is a network of superconnectors that act almost like agents. So there's that component. You could think of us as like an agency or talent agency like CAA. So there's that. Yeah. There's a technology piece as well that is more of a referral engine that allows us to understand who are the mavens and the nodes, the connectors within a network, and to be able to leverage the trust and access that they provide and then actually track deals to fruition. Now, everything I'm saying, there's an element of, there's a reason why LinkedIn, there's a reason why people have not figured this out yet. This is not like the easiest thing in the world. There's elements of, where I really wanted to go eventually, whereas the version in an early stage version is a little bit different. It's more of just a marketplace dashboard for us to be able to support each other. But I am very interested in the conversational AI piece where I'm able to be on this conversation with you. And then we're absolutely taking this back end into the CRM, into the database. And we've got our keywords triggered. And it's like, okay, cool. You need to know this person, that person. Anything I can do to create, I want to like lubricate the connection process. I want it to be more fluid and seamless. I want people like me to be freed up. I want it to be easy for me to just be on calls all day because that's the part that's fun for me. Yeah. And putting you together. Anything that can be automated in the background, that's what we're working on.
So let's talk, I want to talk about both sides of the platform. So obviously there's the side of the platform that is, that's going to be like super connectors like yourself. And so that's the back end, and that's kind of like the human engine, if you will, that drives it, right? Like it's relationships. So it's a little bit different than it's just not another Facebook or something like that. Like, so where everybody gets together, it's completely different. So the concept that you explained to me. So now there'll be also the client facing side, or I know you don't say client, let's say partner facing side. Let me use your word. So the partner facing side. So I'm a potential partner, like I'm thinking about, okay, I've heard of this, the conspiracy, right? And I'm thinking about like how that can help me. Like, take me through like your vision. I know you're in the middle of doing it. I know there's a lot of moving pieces that are still happening, but just talk to me about like the vision side of what this would look like.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different versions of it, right? So there's my main, there's like the elite group of the conspiracy that's just like my main core network. Then there's like maybe 30, at most there's like 50 of us that like, if I told you who my business partner is in LA, like if I told you like some of the people that we have access to, it's crazy. Like name any influencer artist, like politician, like we just have access. So there's that very tight knit, curated, it's us sharing deal flow. It's us having a shared back office. It's just making life simple and easy for us to be leveraging our access. So that's a different version. There's another version of this that's, when you think of it like McDonald's as a franchise did not necessarily tell people, go learn about this fryer, and you needed to looking at this for probably 5 years now. And especially over the last year, I've looked at a lot of different technologies that do elements of this. So there will be conspiracy partner referral companies that we have, vetted as conspiracy certified. So this is like part of it's a referral engine, right? So there's different elements of it. And then there's the playbook that goes with it. So it's like the technology of how it works, the playbook, the understanding who it is, because everything that we're creating for us as the conspiracy, as our core group, that can then all be replicated and put behind any network. So imagine like the wealth of the network that's in EO, in Techstars, and like I'm connected to like a list of venture funds, a list of like angel networks, a list of accelerators. I was going to be working with the DoD. I was going to be the senior advisor for the National Security Innovation Network, and I was going to curate tech for the military and Congress with the accelerators, the universities, and the venture firms. So like there is an element of this kind of thing residing behind, imagine putting it behind the city of Miami. Imagine it, you know, I've got one of the companies we're working with, they're very focused in the film industry. So there's, you know, different variations of this. And in each of those networks, there's somebody that's like me. There are nodes, there are mavens, there are superconnectors that have all the access. And the idea is to be able to go to those people and give them a revenue stream, give them a way to monetize what they do best, what they do innately. And then here's the whole like system and process behind it. Man, there's a lot, there's more to it, because a lot of what I'm wanting to do, part of the reason why I've waited on this is because I'm very interested in some of the people we're working with are the next versions of blockchain. And so it's decentralized governance. I think this has to be set up in something like that. And the idea of being able to reward people for who they bring into the network, the connections that they make, deal flow, being able to actually see deals to fruition, all of these things should be rewarded. It's as a collective model. It's meant to be all these next versions where we have full transparency, yet full privacy at the same time, where it truly is peer-to-peer lending and it is self-sovereign identity. All those things lend themselves to what the conspiracy is meant to do. It's meant to help us breathe together. That needs to be set up in, you know, this next version of blockchain. So that's why it's like I'm talking about a lot of things here, and just know that they're all like it's all falling into place.
No, it's great. And I mean,
the right people all the time, and they're like, hey, this is open source. You can have this. You can have this. You can. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for building this while I was sitting on this island. I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
And what I like about it is it's ambitious. Like this is an ambitious project. And like you said, 5 years already in the building, and just like mentally to wrap your head around the idea of like leveraging a superconnector network, like that's a big deal. Like leveraging like that can lead to billions of dollars over time. Like leveraging like that high level of thing. I mean, it's just not an easy thing to pull off.
How it impacts us with everything. If we have the ability to make it so that people can then own their own data, they can, their financial data, their wellness data, if we can have us owning our infrastructure, the internet, our food, like there's so many of the things that I'm interested in doing. Like we talk about the conspiracy and who it is and what we have access to. Now imagine placing that behind the technologies that are going to empower the people. That's why I want to build all these things. And so like, yeah, it might sound like it is a lot to take on. It's a big,
it's ambitious, it's big, but big is good.
People. And I feel the pain of it every day, where I'm just like, oh, I want to be doing more. So it's like, I don't know that there's anybody else that is more in need of this and that wants it more. And it's like, I'm kind of the person that has to do it. So it's like, that's my calling. I got to do it.
That's the way, hey, that's the way things get done. First of all, that's the way things get done, is when you go to sleep and you're like, hi, you wake up, it's still there. It's still there. Why won't it just go away? This is going to be so hard, but it's still there, Nicole. So you got to build it for us. Sorry.
And I'm pretty thankful that like my job is not to be the only person that builds this. I am the curate, I'm the vortex. And this is such an amazing opportunity for me, because the people that hear me speak that are called to this will show up and they'll be like, oh, we have the technology, we've got the, you need to know this person. Like my biggest thing is being in receptive mode and just listening for who I need to know next and where do I need to be? What do I need to put my attention on?
Amazing. So Nicole, so what's next? I mean, dare I ask, so for you, Casanova Ventures, the conspiracy, like what's next? What's in your vision for the rest of, let's say, the year or the next couple of years? Like what do you have next?
Oh my God, you mean like, will I leave this island and go back to America? Definitely on my list of things to do. So I've got to see my nieces. I've got to get back to the States to do that. So that's on my list. Until then, I'll tell you honestly, one of the big things I'm focused on, because I happen to be here on this beautiful island that is all about like self-healing, and I'm focused on, I mean, just like going forward, and especially right now, I have just a 10-day detox. I am like, my microbiome, everything I'm doing is like completely regenerating myself. I'm literally
Amazing.
making myself into a superhero. I'm not joking. That is what I'm doing, is anything I can do to up level myself. I'm like removing trauma. I'm building up this. I'm got a personal trainer. I'm like, this is the time for me to do everything I can to be as healthy and vibrant as possible, so that I can be the resource for everyone else. So I'm filling my coffers. I'm filling up, that's what I'm focused on right this minute. And as I'm doing that, I'm just being receptive to the next, like people are like sending me stuff in Discord and like, you need to take a look at this and that. And I'm like, okay, this is amazing. I can't believe you've already built all this and it's all open. Thank you for making this API for me. I really appreciate it. So I'm in the mode of those things. There will be a point where one of the next things, my business partner, like there's elements that we're focused on, and I believe there will be a crowdfunding piece that will come out. One of the major, I'm not going to talk about what that is. I'm interested in a next version that will be, it's not going to be crowdfunded in the standard. It's not going to be the regulation. I'm looking at stuff that's more focused on blockchain and pulling in people for the conspiracy that want to be engaged, involved as partners in it. So conspirators, right? So that's coming.
Amazing. So Nicole, first off, I just have to say thank you for coming on the show today. This has been an absolute pleasure. But before we sign off, if somebody's watching this and they want to learn more about Casanova Ventures, or they want to learn about the conspiracy, or they just want to follow what you're doing and like the things you're doing, I mean, what's the best way for people to connect with the brand?
I have to say, I want to say like thank you to Clubhouse. Like one of the best ways of getting every single thing that you just mentioned is by going to a certain page on my site, because it has everything there. So it's Casanova Ventures. It's www.casanovantures.com/links, LINKS. They go to that page. There's like a hello video for me. There's a talk I did on connection builds innovation. There's find me on Clubhouse, find me on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. And I think there's even like let's have a chat, book a hello type thing in there. And it'll link out to Casanova Ventures, a conspiracy. They'll see, some people might even be interested. I think we have on there even a list of, or they get it off the conspiracy page, but there's a list of partners. And these are emerging tech companies that are doing super cool things in music, film, like across the board. But on that page, you can ask for an intro. If any of those companies are interesting, you can literally just click on it and it's automated. So it'll set up an intro from me to that company. So if you're an investor, if you're someone in tech that's in anything it's not just media. Media is a big focus on it, but there's probably like 6 different verticals. And some of the companies that we've been working with recently, they're listed there. So you can take a look at that.
No, that's wonderful. And we'll definitely put that in the show notes for sure, so people can just click on it. But one more time, what's the name of that website? It was Casanova Ventures. What was it? Give it one more time.
So it's CasanovaVentures.com/links, LINKS, CasanovaVentures.com/links. You want to look at the conspiracy, you can get to everything from that other site, but it's theconspiracy.co. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Fantastic.
We'll keep it. Keep it.
Perfect.
It's like now. Shh, don't tell anyone.
I know, right? Shh, don't tell anyone. So, well, thank you again. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you had a lot of fun. Hope you learned a lot. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, especially if you're a first-time viewer or listener. We have many more mission-based entrepreneurs and businesses coming up for you next, and we don't want you to miss a thing. So hit that subscribe button. And Nicole, it truly has been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to following the conspiracy, Casanova Ventures, and everything that you're doing really to take these super connectors and really create a lot of value for the world. So again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. And Adam, thank you, because I'm incredibly impressed with everything that you've put out there and your model and what you're doing. So thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate the time we've had. Thank you.